There's always been a bit of contention between the economic classes. It's safe to say because the richer ones are so fewer compared to the others, there is not a lot of sentiment, at least positive sentiment, towards the rich losing money. Needless to say, landlords are some of the worst of these. I am a sucker that pays rent. I live out of home. I do it because it helped me and give me a bit of extra mental room to move. The rent I pay here for myself, I actually feel is paying for itself. I want to clarify on top of this, I have had great landlords. Mum and pop who, got a bit older and thought,
this 4-bedroom house is a little bit too big for us now, let's downsize.
Whether somehow I've hit 2 in a dime dozen, I don't know, but I've got very lucky. Now, believe it or not, this isn't about the people that own property. It's the sentiment that the higher class are trying to get the lower class to feel towards these people that own 15 houses. Now, I want to specify, if I could have owned many houses up until this point, I very much so would have. But it's a shame, instead of buying property in 1983, I was actually not even born. Towards the sentiment of negativity towards renters, seeing them as rent pigs or beneath you, having a decrepit house or fixtures that just aren't working makes it not a house. It's a box that shields you from the rain. People want to say that it's really, really difficult being a landlord because you have to provide for these plebs that live in your houses. They bring their smells, their lifestyles, their friends, all of those people that are awful. But what they forget is that making things inhospitable means that they lose money too, because no one wants to rent from you if you're a piece of shit. Having a generation of people who are forced to rent for eternity because they can't afford to buy a house like it used to be sort of a part of life. Go to school, meet someone, marry someone, buy a house. Let's talk about this lovely article. This is what prompted this entire thing. Mr. Ben Wilkinson has said Generation Rent has forgotten how lucky it is. What a completely just out of touch and blinkers on kind of thing to write. You cannot be serious to write that and think people are going to take you seriously. I'm going to keep writing, yes. Yes, I'm going to keep writing to my Tories. This article was from The Telegraph in the UK. So they're over in their Queen, or King now, living like the Germans are still flying over. Ben Wilkinson, who is the head of personal finance at The Telegraph. A man who is the head of something implies money. Now, this isn't to say that he doesn't earn this. This is not to say that he didn't work his way up to get it. Ben Wilkinson is fine in himself. But this article is hog's trollop. Absolute fucking garbage. The most out of touch piece of media I've seen in, God, I think since Wall Street Journal decided that it was time to start profiling social media people. Now, buying a house nowadays implies years of saving, 200 years, as he specified in this article, or just lots of money in a job to make it much easier. Going on to Glassdoor, I looked at the heads of the departments that have published their income, and they make an average. Now, this isn't all of them. This is just the average of all the amounts divided by the amount of amounts. They make 80,000 Great British pounds. But to be more specific, 79,916 and 66 pence. Is that the decimal part of pounds? Or is that equates to us here over in the great down under, $154,000. Now, as he said in here, capital growth is no longer guaranteed. This might be a wild thing for a bunch of richos that have no fucking idea how to be poor or just born straight the fuck into it. But investments don't always go up. They fluctuate. And they can go down. Houses have not been on the down for a hot minute, but guess what? They gotta come down sometime. If you can't afford to pay for it and people can't afford to rent it, you gotta get rid of it. Now, I'm saying this not as a homeowner, so I wouldn't know the absolute detriment that would feel. Now I have to lower the price of my house I bought for $83,000. It's worth $682, but now I have to put it back on for $400. Ben then goes on to say here, it's thanks to the end of cheap borrowing. If you bought houses and you are suffering because you bought houses and you can't afford them because the interest rates have gone up, like they always could have, you are your own problem. You fucked up. There is nobody to blame but yourself. Renters aren't to blame because they don't want to pay the extraordinary high rates. The other people selling their houses because they can't afford to keep them aren't at fault for you investing so much stupid money into houses only to find that it failed at this point in time. It's more than likely going to go back to the way it was. Things will settle again. We'll get out of our 2008 GFC level start, and then I'll probably go back up. But you made the choice to invest, and like every investment should have a little contract that you tick in your brain that says,
you acknowledge that if this changes or goes down, you're okay with this.
It's no one's fault but your own, you fucking idiot. Now, Ben then goes on to say here that renting is largely risk and responsibility free. There are some things I'd say, yeah, sure, but I don't know a single person that has had a thing break in their house that's like an integral part. The stove, the sink, the oven. There isn't some sort of a, what happened? It's only X, Y, and Z. Maybe because the landlord's insurance won't cover it, so they're gonna need to investigate it, but it's never responsibility free if they find out that you did something dumb to it. I know many people people that have been charged and sued. Less people sued, more people attempted to be charged for the maintenance and or new product of things that was already somewhat new and broken. It goes on to say there's no home insurance and all you stand to lose is your deposit. Yeah, that's pretty much one of the benefits of being a renter. There's not many, but that's one of them. You just have to balance it on the scale. You know, you got the ability to destroy the house and not have to worry about your deposit if anything bad happens to it that isn't your exact fault. Chance to be kicked out at the end of the lease. Chance to not be able to afford when the price goes up. And above all, the lack of ownership of anything, essential for your assets. I have a car. It's my asset. Maybe this camera. That's an asset, I guess. Sitting here saying that the homeowners are tied into decades-long contracts that commit them to a lifetime of repayments is what happens when you buy a house. There is no sympathy here. If you go into the idea and sign the contract to buy the house, that's on you! Fuck! Houses are up 194%. That's the increase in value versus wages at 82. That's in 20 years, that's all that's changed. But most of all, the out-of-touch nature really needs just to be addressed. That if the housing bubble does burst and generation rent is laughing, it's because of the idiotic people that invested too heavily in property. And like most investments in life, investments don't always go up.